Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 980, Sunday, December the 8th, 2019. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, so we're going to get some of the headline stories today. Nothing really major breaking on the Spygate front. A couple things that we're going to get to. An interesting tweet from George Papadopoulos. And then I'm going to give my thoughts on what I think about the Horowitz report coming out and what we should expect and what I would expect. The main two things that I'm looking for. And so let's go ahead and get to the news of the day. Don't forget, by the way, to get your vote in for Dumbass of the Week in the comments section of this video. So yeah, try to get back on track this week. Last week I forgot on Saturday. It was a busy news day for a change. And on a Saturday it's normally kind of slow. But had a lot of things to talk about last Saturday. Completely forgot about Dumbass of the Week, so we ended up not getting to it till Sunday, which means we didn't announce the winner till Monday. And it was really supposed to be Saturday and then the winner on Sunday. So anyway, trying to get back on track with that. Plus Monday is going to be a huge news day, so we want to keep Monday wide open. So anyway, don't forget your vote for Dumbass of the Week in the comments section of this video. Now, so a lot of people have been talking the last few days about this deal with the bug-eyed fool, Adam Schiff, getting the phone numbers or phone calls of John Solomon, Rudy Giuliani, Victoria Tensing, Devin Nunes, and all these people, and everybody wondering, did he go get a warrant for all this sort of stuff? And it appears that there's 3 or 4 different opinions of what happened, but I think that the most logical thing that it looks to me the most rational, most logical explanation for how Schiff got this phone number information from AT&T, why he was able to get it, I think is an explanation that several people have made, and it's the one that I think is probably most likely, is that because of the way it just gives you the numbers and just shows you who called who, but doesn't give you the actual content, what they discussed, or length of call, or any of these sorts of things. It's just person A called person B. Here's the phone numbers. That is indicative of a national security letter. A national security letter, which does not require a warrant signed by a judge. And it looks like that this came from the Southern District of New York. So it appears that there's some sort of an investigation going on in the Southern District of New York, which resulted in someone there getting a national security letter showing the phone calls, the A&T phone records showing the phone calls of Giuliani, was specifically who I think they were targeting with this Russian guy, Parnas, or whatever his name is. And it's involved in an investigation around Trump and Giuliani and Ukraine and all this sort of thing. So it's kind of an investigation into Giuliani being run out of the Southern District of New York, which is something I guess is new to some people. I assume Giuliani knows about it. But and it was from that they were able to get the phone number of John Solomon and Victoria Tensing, because they had obviously communications with Giuliani. So it looks like it's a national security letter that yielded the telephone information from AT&T, requested likely by the Southern District of New York. And so either Schiff was aware of this and he went to someone there, or someone at the Southern District of New York contacted Schiff and said, hey, we've gotten this information through a national security letter. Now, so I don't think it was Schiff himself that issued a subpoena. Now, I could be wrong. This is all speculation at this point, because the bug-eyed fool is refusing to say or respond to how he got this, the phone number information, and how he came about getting it. So no one really knows at this point, but I'm sure that at some point we're going to find out exactly what happened here. But the most likely scenario, it looks like to me, is this investigation, Southern District of New York, through a national security letter, they get the numbers, and someone there likely contacts Schiff and says, hey, this may be helpful to you. So I think that that's probably the most likely thing, but I'm not 100% sure. But of the various scenarios that I've heard laid out, that seems to be the most logical. So I think that's what I would go with. But we'll have to wait and see whether or not Schiff is in any trouble for this. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see about that as well. So maybe that gives you a little better understanding of what's going on with that. Either way, it's still a dirty, diabolical move by Schiff. I mean, it doesn't excuse him, even if it's not illegal. It's certainly unethical to do. So, anyway, it shouldn't surprise us because he is, after all, the bug-eyed fool. The man's nuts. He's out of his mind. He's a psychopath. Okay, so let's check in on some of the demo commies, including some of the candidates for the nomination. First, we haven't talked about Ocasio-Cortez in a while. She face-planted herself really well yesterday. Of course, you know that big Amazon deal that was going to bring 25,000 jobs to her district. And of course, because of her and some of her crazy friends, Amazon pulled out of the deal. Well, now Amazon has decided to go back to New York, but not in Cortez's district, and not with this major headquarters that they were looking to build. But they are going to go back, and there's going to be about 1,500 jobs as opposed to 25,000. So anyway, so Cortez, I guess, being the numbskull that she is, got this information, and so she tweeted out, "See, now everybody needs to apologize to me because I was right. We didn't give Amazon what they wanted, and now they've come back, and now we're going to get these jobs, and you know, they're not going to take advantage of us." But she's completely, you know, again, as usual, wrong. First of all, the deal is no different than the deal on the tax side of it. It's no deal different than the deal they were going to get. The only difference is, instead of 25,000 jobs in Cortez's district, it's only going to be 1,500 jobs, and they will not be in her district, which means that would total to a 94% job loss for the state of New York, who desperately needs those jobs, and especially in her district. And keep in mind, once Amazon would have built that facility, 25,000 people, think of what that would have done for the local business community around there. Those people have to eat somewhere, they're going to shop somewhere, they're going to frequent a lot of businesses there. This would have led to a nice spurt of economic growth within this community, which they're now not going to actually experience thanks to Cortez. But she thinks it's a victory. Needless to say, she's getting quite the beat down on Twitter. And she is definitely not the brightest bulb in the barn. So anyway, that was kind of funny. She's getting owned over there on Twitter right now, and she should. She's an idiot. Okay, let's check in on some of the demo commie candidates. We still have, now we have Elizabeth Warren, Hiawatha. She's back out there finding herself again having to defend herself from claiming that she was an engine for 50 years. Saying that she's now saying that she did not benefit from claiming that she was an engine for over 50 years. Well, she did benefit from it in many ways. I can think of two right off the top of my head. Of course, she got the job at Harvard. Got the job at Harvard. And with all those people looking for a job at Harvard, the one thing that seemed to put her over the top was that she claimed that she was a Native American. And they highlighted that because they wanted to be able to say, we have a Native American on our staff. And so that's really the reason they gave her the nod. So she certainly benefited from getting the job at Harvard based on claiming the fact that she was an engine, which she's not an engine. Then, of course, she wrote the Cherokee cookbook with the so-called Cherokee recipes, which, of course, is bogus and bunk. So there's probably many more things that you could find if you wanted to dig into it. But there you go. She's obviously the big mistake that she made. Two big mistakes. Probably the biggest recent mistake she made was, of course, her Medicare for All plan, which she had no way to explain it or to explain how she's going to pay for it. And she just really dropped the ball on that particular issue. And of course, it's seen as not plausible with many rank and file Democrats, business Democrats, independents. It only appeals to the far left socialist wing of the party. And while that may get the base and the Twitter group energized around you, it's not going to carry the day for you when you get in toward the primaries and the convention and in the general election. It's a death knell. So that was a big mistake. And she's taken a hit in the polls. I think that she's one of those people that she kind of got rose up in the polls, and now I think she's going back to achieve equilibrium, and I think she's back down in the mid-teens again, where she was kind of challenging Biden in the low to mid-20s. Now she's back in the mid-teens. I think she'll end up leveling off somewhere probably around right where she's at now. And yeah, and her overall biggest mistake was the fact that her strategy from the very beginning should have been to go for the moderate, middle-of-the-road sort of Democrats, the same audience that Joe Biden is trying to go for. She should have went for Biden's audience. And if that would put her challenging Biden. And as weak as he is, she probably would be beating Biden right now if, in fact, she would have ran as sort of a centrist Democrat. But she chose to go to the far left, and she basically, that was the nail in her coffin from day one. She's, never really had a chance since then. She's been living in a dream world. She's really tried to take the Bernie platform, but I guess she thought she would pull all those Bernie voters, and then she would have them move to the center. But they're not going to move to the center, and they're not going to leave Bernie. So anyway, that was a major fail on her part, and I think she's basically done. She'll probably come in the top 3 in a couple of the early primaries, but I don't think that she can get it done in the end. So say goodbye to Hiawatha. Of course, we still have Quid Pro Quo Joe making a fool of himself on multiple occasions. I can't really keep up with all the gaffes and all the problems he's having. But he was being interviewed by a reporter, kind of a middle-of-the-road reporter, probably a left-winger, but he was, asking fairly straight-up middle-of-the-road questions. And he actually gets into a discussion about healthcare, and Biden claims in this discussion with him that illegal immigrants were covered under Obamacare, at which point the reporter corrects him and says, no, actually, that's not true. Illegal immigrants were not covered under Obamacare. And Biden wants to kind of argue the point. And, of course, the reporter ends up making his case and proving Biden doesn't even know what the hell was in Obamacare. And the only thing he can say to it at that point is that, well, okay, then we're going to fix that. So, yeah, he's even got sort of liberal reporters making him look ignorant and stupid as well. And, of course, then he had to come back and backtrack and apologize for challenging that old 85-year-old guy to a push-up contest. And the fact that he flew off the handle like he did shows he's wound pretty tight. And, of course, he continues, even with this reporter, to deny. He keeps repeating that there's this idea that his son got a job with Burisma and didn't have any experience and all this stuff. He continues to say that that's complete hogwash and it's not true and it's a lie, when, in fact, it's actually true and much, much more. So he's never really found a good... You just can't say something isn't true when there's overwhelming evidence that it is. You have to actually... There's a better way to deal with this issue. And it's clear that Biden does not understand how to deal with the issue. He's being advised by someone, or he believes himself, that the best thing to do is just to sit there and look at you and say, no, you're lying, none of this is true, when in fact a lot of it's true, and it's going to be investigated, and it'll probably, if he ends up being the nominee, it will probably be right in the middle of the general election when all that's being unpacked by the Senate Judiciary Committee or by the Justice Department or someone. Ultimately, the truth is going to come out for the most part about this, and it's going to come back and bite him in the ass really hard. But he doesn't see it coming. He just doesn't seem to see it coming. Well, it's fantastic. We had, when Trump was over there at the NATO meeting, there were left-wing media hacks making jokes about the fact that Trudeau and Macron and some other European guys were making fun of Trump and laughing about him or whatever. Well, of course, then what happens is the job numbers come out and shows that, of course, Trump created 266,000 jobs in November. They also upped the job numbers for the 2 previous months. On top of that, they showed that there was 3.5% unemployment, which is more than a 50-year historical type low. And, of course, they show over 3% rise in wages when compared to inflation. Great numbers by anyone's stretch. You really can't spin that. I mean, it is what it is. It's really great numbers. And at the same time, just after that happens, 2 days later, we get the numbers out of Canada. And in Canada, they lost 71,000 200 jobs. That's a lot of jobs in Canada, because Canada's economy is about 1/10 the size of ours. So losing 71,000 jobs in Canada is like the U.S. losing 710,000 jobs. So you lose 700,000 jobs. That's a lot of jobs. That's a big, and it's an indicator that they're headed for some very tough economic times. Trudeau, of course, fired, I guess, the woman, this crazy woman he had, who I guess was his trade person or whatever. She's been canned. So clearly he did win re-election, but he probably would have been better off to have lost, because now he's going to have to try to figure out how to get out from underneath the mess that he's created for himself economically, because they're definitely going down the tubes, and that's not nice to say, because, I mean, Canada, you know, I have a lot of friends, Canadians, people subscribe to my channel. I mean, there are neighbors to the north, love Canada, and we'd like to see Canada doing well, but they're not doing well, and that's unfortunate. But it was kind of funny to see Trump trolling Trudeau after their job numbers come out compared to his job numbers. So all those people so-called laughing at Trump, well, it looks like Trump's definitely getting the last laugh with that crew. And, of course, Trump's new number came out the other day. Of course, we've been seeing these Trump numbers being over 50% now. There's another poll that's out yesterday, Rasmussen poll. They're actually polling Democrats now. And they actually have a Rasmussen poll showing that 25% of Democrats approve of Trump. 25% of Democrats approve of Trump. That means that if Trump were in the Democrat field right now, running for the Democratic nomination, he would be in first place. He would have more support than Biden or Warren or Sanders or Buttigieg or anyone else. He would be leading the Democratic field with those kind of numbers. 25% of Democrats and about 95% of Republicans. He's going to win big in 2020. Very, very big. We're also getting numbers out on CNN and how the impeachment is working out for them. And, of course, as you can guess, it's not working out. In fact, it's hard to imagine CNN's ratings continue to drop and drop and drop. But despite all the drops that they've had in the past 3 years since Trump's been president, their ratings currently in this last rating sweep show that they are now at a 3-year low. They are hemorrhaging viewers. Even their top shows, which used to get somewhere around 1.2 million, their top shows are now only averaging 643,000 total viewers. I mean, that is pitiful. There are many YouTubers who get way more than that. I mean, they are literally a dying network. And they only have 138,000 viewers in the most key demographic, which is that 25 to 54. That's the one everybody is going for, that 25 to 54. And that demographic, 138,000 viewers is all they have. That is just, I don't know how that network survives. Of course, I guess they don't mind losing money because, you know, their purpose is to attack Trump every day. They don't even care if they make money. They can't be making money. I can't imagine how they're making money. I know they saw a lot of ads because their TVs are in airports and train stations and things like that, but even that's changing. So it's getting worse and worse and worse. And at the same time that they're getting 643,000 average viewers on their programs, Fox is getting about 2.2 million, and they're blowing CNN and MSNBC away in the ratings and the coverage of the impeachment. And of course, the Fox News is covering the impeachment in a lot different way than they are on CNN and MSNBC. So here you can see impeachment is killing CNN right along with everything else. And of course, let's take a look at the Bernie campaign. It looks like in the Bernie campaign, but I think Bernie, a lot like Elizabeth Warren, had a surge. I think he's back down to his equilibrium. I think he's somewhere around between 15 and 19%. I don't think he'll do much better than that. I still think he could win New Hampshire or place a close second. I think he might even, I don't know how well he'll do in Iowa, but the problem with Bernie is he might even do well in California. But once you get into the South and the Southwest, that's where it all falls apart for Bernie. And then the Midwest states vote too late in the game to help him. So, again, I don't think that Bernie is a threat. it all. And of course, he's got another scandal on his hands. They just had to fire a high-level campaign official named Darius Gordon because he got caught making remarks that are anti-gay, anti-Jew, and anti-women. So he's been fired from the Sanders campaign. That certainly doesn't look good. So that's pretty much what we have going on with the demo commies on that side of the fence. Now we have this new book coming that's just coming out, and Tucker Carlson had the author of the book on a show the other night, and the book is, of course, about Jeffrey Epstein, and he lays out in this book, just with the kind of short interview that he did, what I could get out of it. He lays out the basic premise of the book is, of course, he is determined that Epstein was essentially blackmailing these global elites and various politicians. And this journalist who wrote this book is also saying that there's an Israeli element in here, that apparently the Israeli government was using Epstein's, I guess, the father. You know this woman Maxwell, the woman who would recruit the girls for him, Maxwell. Apparently, this Maxwell, her father, would do the same type of thing on behalf of Israeli intelligence, set up politicians with young girls to get dirt on them, so the Israeli intelligence could use that against politicians they were opposed to. So apparently Epstein meets this Maxwell woman, and he kind of takes over where her father left off, and he's, I assume, maybe doing the same thing for the Israelis, but then he expands it to all these global elitists. And apparently what he had going on was he had all these rooms and all these houses, and he had his plane and everything else. Well, apparently everything was totally wired for video. And he has got video on everybody doing everything, all these global elites, and that's what he would use to blackmail them with. So he would lure them in with these young girls, underage girls, and then he would let them take advantage of these young girls, and they didn't realize, of course, but they were being videotaped, and then he would later use this as blackmail. So that's pretty interesting. He also says that he is confirmed by flight records and interviews with pilots and ground crews and things like that, that in fact Bill Clinton did fly on the Lolita Express 27 times, and on quite a few of those occasions there were young underage girls dressed as candy stripers, whatever a candy striper is, I don't know, it's some sort of something, I don't know, but girls dressed as candy stripers would be on the plane, underage, I guess, young girls, and so he's determined that that is true, which means the Clintons have been lying about, of course, it shouldn't surprise us, they've been lying about their involvement with Epstein, his properties. We just learned that the Clintons, along with Chelsea, the Rotten Reverend, and Slick Willie, all stayed at this sort of western mocked-up town resort that he had out in New Mexico, and they apparently go there at least once a year, every year since Clinton was president, even though they said they never went to any of his properties. And he said also he can prove that Clinton at least one time for sure was at his New York property, which is where that strange painting is of Bill Clinton wearing the blue Monica Lewinsky dress. That's really strange. So I think there's going to be a lot of fallout from this book. There already is a lot of fallout for this royal over in England. I think he's been, I guess, demoted, or he's no longer the Duke of York. Let's put it that way. He's not allowed to participate in the Queen's functions, and so he's kind of been blacklisted by the Queen. So things are definitely heating up there, and I think that there's a lot of other revelations in this book that are going to come out. And I think there's a lot more to come with the Jeffrey Epstein thing. Obviously, no one believes the so-called official story that he suicided himself. I've never believed that. I think most people don't believe it, and I don't know that we'll ever get to truth. But I think that it's kind of like the JFK assassination. We'll never really get the government to admit the truth about the JFK assassination, but by this point, it's been so many years, so much evidence has come out, we pretty much know a lot about what happened. And we don't need the government to come out and tell us what happened now, because it's been enough time, enough people have come forward, there's enough years have gone by, enough information's come out. We can pretty well have a pretty good idea what went on and who was involved. I think the same will be true with this Epstein thing. slowly over time, enough details will seep out, and eventually we'll be able to put together. By then, it'll be a moot point. Unfortunately, that's how things always work. Now, there was a very interesting tweet sent out by Papadopoulos yesterday, and unfortunately, I tried to research it and see if I could find, where he got that information from, an Italian newspaper or Israeli newspaper or some other newspaper or British, but I searched on it and I was never able to find anything to corroborate it, so I'm not sure where he's getting this information. But he tweets out yesterday, Papadopoulos tweets out yesterday, quote, Alexander Downer has made a bizarre and unfounded claim and perpetuated a conspiracy theory that the Israelis were the ones who told him to spy on me in London. So let's see what the Israelis have to say to this slanderous accusation. Well, that's interesting. I can't find anything to corroborate that. I don't know where he's getting that information, but I'll take his word for it. I guess the thing here to note is that Alexander Downer, for the longest time, has been completely denying everything, that he was not acting as a spy, that he's not a spy, he's a State Department official, he's a diplomat, he had nothing to do with this conspiracy, nothing at all, it's all a hoax, blah, 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 the whole 9 yards. And now it appears, if what Papadopoulos is saying is true, that he is at the very least admitting that he was spying on Papadopoulos for someone. Now, he's saying it was the Israelis. Who knows? But he's actually coming out now and saying he is spying. So my guess is maybe there's going to be something in the Horowitz report that tells us that Downer was, in fact, spying on behalf of someone, but maybe Horowitz is going to say, we don't know who. It's really hard to say, but I assume that Durham is the one trying to get to the bottom of that. And it wouldn't surprise me if he was spying for the Israelis. Papadopoulos was known pretty well in Israel, but the deal that he was working on was a deal that would have been in the best interest of Israel. So I'm not really sure why, but Israelis spy on everybody. They're paranoid as hell. They spy on us. They spy on the Brits. They spy on the French. They spy on everybody. They spy on their friends as much as they spy on their enemies. So it would not surprise me at all if it was the Israelis that asked Downer to spy on Papadopoulos. I'm not 100% sure. I'm like Papadopoulos. I don't really believe that. I think there was greater motivation for other people than for the Israelis. But if the Israelis did do it, it's only because maybe they had someone who had a close connection with him and could get him to bite on it. But maybe someone else asked the Israelis to ask him. It could have been Brennan, or it could have been someone in the CIA or State Department or the Rotten Reverend Clinton. Someone could have used the Israelis to get Downer to do their dirty work. I think a lot more digging needs to be done on that, but it's quite interesting, and at least ways we're half the way there with Downer. We've now finally got him to admit that he's been lying all along and that he was in fact spying for someone on Papadopoulos. Now, Monday, we're going to have the IG report come out, and of course that's the same day that they're going to have the hearings for the impeachment. That's no accident. Of course, the idea here is that the Dems are hoping that the impeachment will overshadow the stuff that comes out of the Horowitz report. I don't think that's going to happen. Now, I would think that the CNNs, the MSNBC, New York Times, and all those, I would think that they're going to do one of two things: either completely ignore the IG report as a story completely, or if they can't ignore it, if it's too big of a bombshell, then they will simply spin it. And when you ask Democrats about it, their take is going to be, when you say, hey, so, you go to a Democrat or ask them about this very damning report released by the IG, I think that the response you're going to get from Democrats is, number one, not to respond to it. So if you go up to a Democrat and say, hey, so what's your thoughts on, this IG report and showing all this stuff that went on, spying on Trump, I think that they're just going to look at the person asking the question and go, well, the important thing we should be focusing on right now is how Trump is, abusing his power and obstructing justice and needs to be impeached. And the impeachment's what we should be focusing on. The IG report's unimportant. It doesn't matter. Yes, some procedural things weren't done correctly, That happens in bureaucracies. That's nothing we should be focused on. We need to have all of our focus on impeachment. Impeaching Trump for all the crimes he's committed. That's going to be how they're going to do it. They're just going to, deflect the question about the Horowitz report, the IG report, and they're going to turn to their main talking point, which is impeaching Trump. But the thing is, they will not be able to sustain that. They might get away with it for a day. They might get away with it for 2 days. They might get away with it for a week. But the fallout from the IG report is going to linger for weeks and weeks and weeks. And eventually, it is going to work its way to the surface, and all the things that they did are going to be known. And it's going to be really hard to ignore it, and they're going to have, at some point, going to have to start answering some questions and explaining it. And we don't know how deeply into this Horowitz is going to go, as far as if he's going to show Democrats, politicians being involved, or if he's simply looking at DOJ, FBI errors, is what he'll describe them as, errors that were made. Now, as far as the two things that I'm mainly focused on for the IG report, I mean, I know what the IG report is. It's a cover-up, okay? But fortunately, we have Attorney General Barr. He is not going to allow Horowitz to whitewash the entire thing. So what you're going to expect from Horowitz is going to tell you what was done. Oh, they violated this policy. They weren't really exactly level with the FISA court. Oh, they withheld some exculpatory evidence. And when Horowitz gets done telling you about all the policy violations, he's going to have some recommendations of things that they can do so that it never happens again. See, so that's what I think that we'll get out of the Horowitz report. Not that there won't be some things in it that will be damning, but Horowitz and all IGs will always stop short of actually presenting a criminal affair or conspiracy. Horowitz is not going to connect the dots and lay out the criminal conspiracy. That's absolutely not what he's going to do. So the thing that Horowitz does, and IGs do specifically, and they do this on purpose, they only tell you what happened. Well, they kind of weren't straight with the FISA court. Well, they kind of withheld exculpatory information. Well, they kind of rigged a couple of documents. They may have changed a couple 302s. What Horowitz will tell you is what they did, and these are violations of policy and procedure. What he won't tell you is why they did it, what the motivation was, what the objective was. Because if he has to dig into that and tell you why they did what they did, that is where the criminality is. That is where the conspiracy is. And that is where the indictments are waiting. Now, that is what Durham and Barr are going to tell us. Horowitz is going to tell us what they did. Durham is going to tell us why they did it. And it's in the why they did it is where you get into the criminal conspiracy charges, people going to prison, which is what should happen and better happen. So keep that in mind about the IG report. We're going to learn about the things that were done that shouldn't have been done, policies, procedures, blah, 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 blah. But Horowitz isn't going to tell us why they did it. He's just going to tell us what they did. It will be Barr and Durham who will then take that and tell us why they did it. And it's important, the IG report is important because it gives Barr and Durham the cover they need to justify the criminal investigation they have. Because Horowitz, as I just said, is going to come out and say what happened, but he's not going to say why. So Barr is now going to be able to say, well, I have my U.S. attorney looking into why they did all these things. And that is where the rub is, and that is where the indictments will come down. So the biggest thing, though, that I'm looking for, that I would like to see over the next couple of days and weeks, is to flip the narrative, because that's really important. The IG report does have the ability, even though he's not going to tell us the criminal conspiracy and why they did it, it will be enough information there to flip the narrative, and that's the beginning of completely turning the tide and turning this against and turning it onto the real criminal conspirators. We need to change the narrative, and we need to give Barr and Durham the justification for asking the other big question: why did they do it? Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See ya. Bye.